Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are Canto 2, Chapter 2, The Lord in the Heart, text number 36, the penultimate verse of this chapter. So would somebody like to read, or shall I do
it? Verses you can read, Prabhu. Synonyms and translation purport we can read.
All right. So I'll read the Sanskrit. Tasmāt savatmana rajan hari savatra savada shotavya kititavyascha smatavyo bhagavan rinam. Translation. Oh no, word for word. Who does that?
Yes.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Tasmāt, therefore, sava, all, atmana, soul, rajan, O king, hari, the Lord, savatra, everywhere, savada, always, shrotavya, must be heard, kirtitavya, kirtitavya, glorified, cha, also, smatavyaha, be remembered, Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead, Nrinam, by the human being. Translation. O king, it is therefore essential that every human being hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, always and everywhere. So what about the purport? Somebody will read that, or shall I?
Somebody will read it for you, Prabhu. Okay. If no one, I will read it for you.
Okay, any takers? Okay.
Okay, let me start, Prabhu. Srila Sukadeva Goswami begins this verse with the word tasmāt, or therefore, because in the previous verse, he has already explained that there is no auspicious means for salvation other than the sublime process of Bhakti-yoga. The Bhakti-yoga process is practiced by the devotees in different methods like hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, worshipping, praying, rendering service in love, becoming friendly, and offering all that one may possess. All 9 methods are bona fide methods, and either all of them, some of them, or even one of them can bring about the desired result for the sincere devotee. But out of all of the 9 different methods, the first one, namely hearing, is the most important function in the process of Bhakti Yoga. Without hearing sufficiently and properly, no one can make any progress by any of the methods of practice. And for hearing only, all Vedic literatures are there, compiled by authorized persons like Vyasadeva, who is very powerful incarnation of Godhead. And since it has been ascertained by the Lord is the supreme super soul of everything, he should therefore be heard and glorified everywhere and always. This is the special duty of human being. When the human being gives up the process of hearing about the all-pervading personality of Godhead, he becomes victim to hearing rubbish transmitted by human machines. Machinery is not bad because through the machine one can take advantage of hearing about the Lord, but because the machinery is used for ulterior purposes, it is creating rapid degradation in the standard of human civilization. It is said here that it is incumbent upon the human beings to hear because the scriptures of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad-Bhāgavatam are made for that purpose. Living beings other than human beings have no ability to hear such Vedic literatures. If human society gives itself to the process of hearing the Vedic literature, it will not become a victim to the impious sounds vibrated by impious man who degrade the standards of the total society. Hearing is solidified by the process of chanting. One who perfectly heard from the perfect source becomes convinced about the all-pervading personality of Godhead and thus becomes enthusiastic in glorifying the Lord. All the great acharyas like Ramanuja, Madhva, Chaitanya, Saraswati Thakur, or even in other countries, Muhammad, Christ, and others have all extensively glorified the Lord by chanting always and in every place. Because the Lord is all pervading, it is essential to glorify Him always and everywhere. In the process of glorifying the Lord, there should be no restriction of time and space. This is called Sanatana Dharma or Bhagavata Dharma. Sanatana means eternal, always and everywhere. Bhagavata means pertaining to Bhagavan, the Lord. The Lord is the master of all time and space, and therefore the Lord's holy name must be heard, glorified, and remembered everywhere in the world. This will bring about the desired peace and prosperity so eagerly waited by the people of the world. The word cha includes all the remaining processes or methods of Bhakti-yoga as mentioned above. Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So this verse spoken by Sukadev has a precursor in the first canto with and actually it's not a precursor, because if we understand the chronology of the first and second canto, in the first canto we have the sages at Naimisharanya beginning to hear from Sutta Goswami, and Sutta Goswami has returned to Naimisharanya after having gone away to gain qualification to speak to the sages there. And on his return journey to Naimisharanya, he was present at Sukadev Goswami's recitation of Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj, and then he came to Naimisharanya. And when he began to speak, a very conclusive verse that he spoke in the second chapter is verse number 14, which is an iteration of what Sukadev Goswami said to Maharaj Parikshit. We've just read that. I'll just read what Sutta Goswami says, and you'll see the resonance. Tasmāt ekena manasa bhagavan sattvatam pati shrotavya kititavyascha jayas pujascha nityada. Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. And a very important point, couple of points at the beginning of this purport will help us unpack this a little further. There's a brilliant statement here at the beginning of this purport. If realization of the absolute truth is the ultimate aim of life, it must be carried out by all means. In any one of the above mentioned castes and orders of life, that's the previous verse, verse 13, the four processes, in any one of the above mentioned castes and orders of life, the four processes, namely glorifying, hearing, remembering, and worshiping, are general occupations. Then he says, Prabhupada says, without these principles of life, no one can exist. Activities of the living being involve engagement in these four different principles of life. So hearing about, remembering, glorifying, and worshiping are four activities which Prabhupada says here, without these principles of life, no one can exist. And it all begins with what you hear about. What you hear about is what you remember. What you remember is what you become attached to and begin to glorify and worship. And if the subject of your hearing is not the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then the list of what you will hear about in the material world is endless. Sukadev speaks about that when he says that the conditioned living entities in the material world, they have unlimited subjects to engage in hearing and talking about. So the result of all of that is the repetition of birth and death in the material world. By becoming attached to and remembering, thinking about, and glorifying and worshiping material things, we become materially entangled. But later on in the, again, back to the first canto, we have when Sukadev, or rather when Vyasadeva is morose after he's compiled all of the Vedic literatures, except at that time, the Srimad-Bhāgavatam. Narad points out to him that does not a thing which causes a disease, if applied therapeutically, cure that disease? And what he's talking about is this process of hearing, remembering, glorifying, and worshiping. Hearing about mundane things causes our disease of, that's talked about in the next verse, where Prabhupada explains that the sufferings of human society are due to a polluted aim of life, namely lording it over the material resources. This entanglement in this situation is a very bad disease that can only be cured by the same process that got us into it. Hearing about, remembering, glorifying, and worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Very simple. Very, very simple. On the one hand, hearing about mundane things will cause us to become more and more entangled. I just got a message, so I'm sorry. Hearing about material things will cause us to become more and more entangled in the complexities of Maya. Whereas the same practice of hearing, when applied to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, brings us ultimate liberation from the repetition of birth and death, but not just liberation from these things, but liberation into pure, unalloyed, uninterrupted, unmotivated, favorably rendered devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Prabhupada goes on in Purport to 1.2.14, especially in modern society, all activities are more or less dependent on hearing and glorifying. Any man from any social status becomes a well-known man in human society within a very short time if he is simply glorified truly or falsely in the daily newspapers. Prabhupada wrote this over 60 years ago now. There were not social media platforms in those days. So you don't need to depend upon the newspaper to promote yourself in the world today. And you don't have to be dependent upon others reporting on you, your words, your activities, and so on in order to become well known in human society. You just have to set up your own YouTube channel or your own, get your own Instagram account, have Facebook, so on and so forth. And you can promote yourself. You can have people hearing about your activities, remembering your activities, becoming your follower. But the outcome of this is not good. Such things are actually a waste of time. Prabhupada goes on to explain that. But such propaganda by false glorification of an unqualified person cannot bring about any good, either for the particular man or for the society. There may be some temporary reactions to such propaganda, but there is no permanent effects. Therefore, such activities are a waste of time. The actual the actual object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything manifested before us. We have broadly discussed this fact from the beginning of the Janmadhyasya sloka of this Bhagavatam. The tendency to glorify others or hear others must be turned to the real object of glorification, the Supreme Being, and that will bring happiness. As Prabhupada always used to promote, chant Hare Krishna and be happy. We all want connection. There's a phenomenon in society now called parasocial. You can Google that, look it up. It's a term coined, I think, in the middle of the 20th century, because through the 20th century, the means by which the media by which we can develop a one-sided relationship with somebody is everywhere now. So through watching a television show, I can become very much attached to one or more of the actors in that. Then they have what's it called? Twitter accounts that I can read things about them, and I can think that I've actually got a relationship with that person. But then that's just an illusion. That's a total figment of your imagination. The difficulty is this has a very cultish effect on people. I'm thinking about something like, what do they call them? Trekkies. These conferences of people who are followers of Star Trek. And there's a whole multi-billion industry now, multi-billion-dollar industry of paraphernalia in regard to the characters of Star Trek. So people show up to these conventions in their costumes. You could even do a PhD on the Klingon language now. The Klingon language is a totally fabricated thing of the fictitious Klingon people who are characters in Star Trek. This is all parasocial behavior. It's all one-sided. These things don't actually have any tangible existence. They're all just figments of imagination. Whereas, as Prabhupada says here very clearly, the actual object of glorification is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has created everything that we that is manifested before us. This is truth. This is the absolute truth. Everything rests upon Krishna. Everything is created by Krishna. Krishna is omnipresent. Nothing happens without the will of the Lord. Remember, and you cannot forget something you don't know. This is very important. People who suffer from amnesia are treated for that amnesia by being put constantly in touch with people, places, and things that they are actually very, very familiar with, but which they've forgotten. So this is our process. We're in total amnesia. We've forgotten Krishna. We've forgotten everything about Krishna. And in the process of forgetting Krishna, we've forgotten who we are. We've forgotten our identity as eternal servants of Krishna. That's what we are. Which particular servant of Krishna? That is even more deeply buried in our forgetfulness. But it begins, the remembrance of our identity begins with our generic understanding that we are eternal servants of Krishna, and that memory of Krishna and that attraction for Krishna, that reawakening of our dormant love for Krishna can be achieved through this simple process of hearing about, remembering, glorifying, and worshiping Krishna. Very simple process, which we're engaged in anyway. It's just that we've invested our loving propensity, our attraction to the material things that surround us. And that attraction always leads to misery, always leads to unhappiness, because all relationships ultimately come to nothing in the material world. All relationships must end. They'll be severed by time, if nothing else. Time, the great destroyer of the worlds. Everything is happening under the control of time. But time, as we know it, does not exist in the spiritual world. Birth, death, old age, and disease are, what does Prabhupada say? Conspicuous by their absence. There is the passage of time, the movement of time in the spiritual world, day, night, the different seasons. We read all about this in Krishna book. But in Brahma Samhita explains to us that although there is movement of time, there is no fading away of anything by the influence of time, which is what happens in the material world. So just by simply shifting our focus from the material to Krishna. Prabhupada, when he was asked by John Lennon, how do you find a spiritual master? Prabhupada said, you find that person who is addicted to Krishna. Right now, we are addicted to Maya. But it's simply a matter of shifting our focus. Just like in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada, or rather Krishna, I'm sorry, Krishna explains how one enters samadhi when the mind becomes completely withdrawn from all material activities and becomes fixed upon Krishna. One enters that state of trance called samadhi. Actually, we're always in a state of trance. We're always addicted. These, to be entranced and to be addicted, are qualities of the soul. The problem is, through hearing the wrong things, we've entered into a trance of sense gratification to which we are addicted. But we shift our addiction to Krishna, become addicted to Krishna. And as Prabhupada makes it so clear at the end there of that purport. Where are we? The tendency to glorify others or hear others must return to the real object of glorification, the Supreme Being, and that will make us happy. And who does not want to be happy? You can ask anybody what it is that you want. What do you want? And people will give you all kinds of different answers to that question. They want to become a successful businessman. They want to do something to help save the environment. They want to have a family life. They want to become the Prime Minister of Australia, or whatever it is that people say that they want. You can then ask them, if you get that, will you be happy? And they'll say yes. So then the understanding is, we just want to be happy. It doesn't matter what we want to be happy. But we've lost the understanding of what happiness is. When Prabhupada, how are we doing for time? Almost 1 minute. When Prabhupada was interviewed by one journalist in Bhaktivedanta Manor in the early days after the acquisition of Bhaktivedanta Manor, the journalist asked him, what's the purpose of life? And Prabhupada said, the purpose of life is to enjoy. But we have lost the understanding of what is the actual platform of enjoyment. And here the answer is given. Here the answer is given. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the object of enjoyment for everyone. Not that we exploit the Lord for enjoyment, but by becoming dedicated servants of the Lord and giving him enjoyment, we become happy. Well, that's 7 o'clock, so I guess we have to stop. Or do we have time for 1 or 2 questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Sneha.
It's me. It's my mom. I'm Neil, my mom's son. I had a question about you said yesterday that Krishna can see the future, and in Bhagavad Gita it says Krishna can see the past, present, and future. And my question was, then how do we have free will?
How do we have free will?
Yeah, if Krishna can see the future.
Well, he can see it, but he doesn't interfere with it. He can see everything, but he doesn't interfere with you executing your free will.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Just because he sees something, it doesn't mean you lose your free will. It's just that he knows how you're going to use your free will. Yes?
Yes. Thank you.
Free will is always there. You can like Krishna says to Arjuna, you do whatever you choose. You can do whatever you like. The problem is in our ignorance of not knowing what is to be done and what is not to be done, we set off chains of cause and effect into the future by the actions that we perform now. But when we become enlightened with that knowledge by which our fundamental nescience is destroyed, then we see everything clearly, and then we can choose. We can make actual choices that are for our benefit, our eternal benefit. Whatever choice we make for our temporary benefit by the use of our independence simply causes suffering. But when we become enlightened with that knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, then, well, there's some verses you can look up in that regard. In the 5th chapter, verse 15, 16, and 17. We don't have time to go into that right now, but you have a look at those verses and you'll get an understanding of what I'm talking about. 15, 16, and 17 of chapter 5. You could all benefit from reading those verses. Hare Krishna. Good question. What's your name?
Neil.
Neil. Oh, we know each other, don't we? Yes.
Yeah.
I forget names. I'm terrible. It's a good question, Neil. It's a good question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I guess we have to stop there.
Prabhuji, I had a question. It's just like a general question, not like it's not attaching to any other classes. When Krishna came 5,000 years ago, what was his purpose of coming? Because at the moment, because I think his purpose was to like help like the universe at the moment, like help it like achieve righteousness. But then at the moment, everything is going downhill. So then what was his actual purpose of coming to the material world?
Well, he achieved his purpose, and that's described by Krishna in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in verses 7, 8, 9, and 10, where he says that he comes. You can read them yourself as well. 4, 7, 8, 9, and 10. He achieved his goals, but that was 5,000 years ago, and shortly after Krishna's disappearance, the age of Kali began. And in the age of Kali, just as Krishna says also at the beginning of the 4th chapter, the parampara appears to get broken, and the knowledge of the absolute truth appears to be lost. That's what happens in the material world. So Lord Chaitanya has appeared in the Kali Yuga. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahiyanya. There is no difference between Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya has appeared to re-establish the principles of religion for this age, for whoever wants to follow them. And it's up to us to help that come about. By engaging in the Sankirtan Yagya.
Okay. So then was Krishna, when Krishna came, was Age of Kali already started or hasn't started? It wasn't started at that time.
Sorry, say that again.
When Krishna came 5,000 years ago.
Yeah, it was still Dwapara Yuga.
Okay.
Dwapara Yuga. The beginning we see in the Bhagavatam, we see the entrance of Kali into the world during the reign of Maharaj Parikshit. So Krishna, after the battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna established Yudhishthira as the emperor of the world, and his direct descendant is Maharaj Parikshit. So after Krishna established Yudhishthira as the emperor, he shortly after that disappeared from this world. So then some time passed, and then Yudhishthira gave up the throne, and Maharaj Parikshit became the emperor. And it is during his reign that Kali made his full entrance into the material world, into this world. Okay. And that's Kali Yuga.
Oh. Thank you, Prabhuji.
And religious principles have degenerated in the last 5,000 years. And a little over 500 years ago, Lord Chaitanya appeared to reestablish those principles on the basis of what is called the Yuga Dharma. We can talk about that tomorrow. Are you boys going to be at the youth gathering tomorrow? At Burbank?
I won't be because I have to go somewhere else. But...
Oh, wow. Because I'm going to do a class with everyone tomorrow. Anyway.
Yeah, I'll be there on Sunday, but not on Saturday.
All right, we can talk more on Sunday. I think I'm keeping everybody late here. It's already 7:08. I'll see you Sunday. We can talk about it more.
Okay.
Don't be a stranger, okay?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.